Hi, hey, this is Craig Jenke. I'm here with Jay Leask for another edition of This Week in Teams on July 10th, 1 week from our July 4th episode. So that works out pretty good.
It's beautiful. Hey, I heard fourth time's a charm, right, Craig?
Yes. I have no idea what that means, but
Well, yeah. It was funny if you caught on to the fact that I was making fun of us for having to hit record 4 separate times to start this.
I was guessing the people didn't.
The people did it.
The people, the watcher, or two.
Oh, for all of our listeners, I apologize. We're in weird moods today.
It all started with Jay explaining to me why my daughter couldn't sleep with her light off.
That's right. I father explained that to you. I definitely. This is
so those not in on the know. My power went out this morning, and at 5 a.m, my 10-year-old ran in and said, "Hey, Daddy, my light is off, and I can't sleep with my light off." And I said to Jay, "I don't know why she can't sleep with her light off." And then Jay explained it to me.
I felt the need to explain
figure it out. Yes. Yeah, so father explaining, that's good. Not he mansplained to me.
I did. Well, you can't just mansplain to. Never mind. It's inappropriate either way. I apologize. It's I haven't had enough coffee. I was up late, and anyway, this is This Week in Teams.
That is our longest intro yet. So, Jay, what's new in This Week in Teams? A lot of new stuff.
Like 2 days ago, I was sitting there trying to figure out what we were going to talk about because it was a slow week. And then yesterday, you sent me a link, which we'll clearly have, to a Microsoft blog about reimagining virtual collaboration. My CTO, I'm in the TAP, which is one of the early release programs. He's in an inner ring beyond that, and he shared the Together mode, the new Together mode that came out. Which, what do you call it again, Craig?
I call it stadium seating, but you don't like that.
Yeah, that's a terrible name. It's first of all, it's not a stadium. If you've ever been to a stadium and that's what it looked like, that's why your team doesn't win.
We got good seats.
But no,
I don't sit in the cheap seats, Dave. Jay, I don't know. I don't know where you sit. I only sit luxury.
You also apparently don't know my name, Dave.
Yes, Dave.
So Together mode is interesting. They posted this whole thing. Microsoft posted this whole thing in the article about how it reduces fatigue to see each other in this type of view. And I've seen a video there, and you mentioned it. They're coming out with different backgrounds, which some of the backgrounds are really interesting. Like if you're having a meeting with 5 or 6 people, there's a view that hasn't come out yet that's around a conference table. So there's some really interesting stuff coming. I agree. But the mode that they released right now, the auditorium style, it looks like you're in a lecture hall and you're the teacher and everyone is in your lecture hall. Like that is not the fatigue release I'm looking for.
Well, to be fair, I think that was designed to help more the education section, because they are the ones that have been pushing for the 7x7, which is also coming out, the large gallery view, so you can see up to 49 people. Actually, you can see. So that's a little bit of a misnomer because you can actually see more than 49 people, but it's 49 people on the display in the 7x7. But if you look at the pictures you released, or if you've ever noticed,
they've got that little like sidebar or something, right?
Yeah, a little sidebar. So you at least get yourself and you get a couple other people. So
yeah. It's interesting. So the what view released? Something released this week. Oh, the pop-outs released, right?
Yes.
So we got the meeting pop-outs in our tenant, and for like 3 days I was getting the meeting pop-outs, and then all of a sudden they stopped popping out, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out what's wrong. I think I have some hardware issues. I think my my GPU is failing or something. So I'm trying to chase that down. But I'm wondering. I'm wondering if the app is smart enough to recognize if the system hardware can support what it's trying to do, and that's what it decides if it's going to give you the gallery view or the pop-outs or whatever. I don't know. So for everyone else at home, yes, Teams can be frustrating. I agree. We're all trying to learn together as the new features come out and as they come out to Bill but not Ted or whatever.
Yeah, excellent venture. Yeah, got it.
and our excellent adventure. I didn't even do that on purpose. So what else? So there was a big post about the virtual collaboration. What else is coming out with that?
So I thought we were still talking about. Oh, what was interesting? So the other thing interesting about the 7. So there's multiple views coming out.
There,
The gallery view, large the large gallery view to be able to see anybody. I would love to say that this was tailored for me, but I've yet to be in a meeting with more than 3 or 4 people, unless it was like a social hour, right? So, not
yeah,
everybody in the business meetings that I go to turns them off. Like there might be 1 or 2 people, but
yeah.
uh,
We just had our QBRs this week, or we still have some today, but and in those we've got 20 to 30 people in a meeting, and while most of the time a PowerPoint presentation is up, which by the way, dynamic view is interesting as they're pushing that out now too,
yes,
where
that was where I was going to lead into. But go ahead,
yep,
go ahead.
where it's not just the grid, the standard grid, but there's it's going to start smartly trying to display content and people, which is what I really appreciate that one. Um,
Yeah, I think
but
that's going to be huge in education too. That's
yeah, but my point is,
I said, well, which I was going to say is great about Teams has been since COVID. It's kind of taken over for Skype for business, right? So you would think
yes,
that Teams would be Teams for business, for lack of a better. But a lot of the most recent pushes for improvements have come out of the education
yes,
segment, and a little bit out of government too, right? So
yep,
we're trying to roll out things that are beneficial for teachers and trainers and people that have to present a lot from home. So that's why you're seeing all these different views and raise hands, and being one of the other things is emojis will now be able to be is coming to be able to be shown in the video too next to the
right, right,
person.
yep,
So that's kind of coming, but some security and other things around that is quickly following, because the government quickly raises their hand and says, hey, we love this, but it's not secure, or
yeah,
that kind of thing. Sorry, didn't mean
yeah.
to.
No, that was a good tangent because you're absolutely right. What we're so used to technology like SharePoint being released for knowledge workers, desk workers, that it's really interesting to see Microsoft focusing on the education space, focusing on healthcare. There's a lot of healthcare related things that are being pushed out, and frankly, consumers. So I
Yes.
saw the other day there's teams for families now. Like they're trying to push people to bring it into their in that technology capability into their families, which is I mean I'm all for it. That's awesome. I'm really excited to see where it's going.
Yeah. It will be cool when people are using it for both, right?
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that they still need to work on, is that switching between tenant type of thing.
Hmm.
So I know that's coming, and on mobile, it's actually not very hard to switch between tenants. It's a lot easier to do that um, on mobile than it is on the
Yes.
actual desktop. The other thing that I know that people request is getting all your messages in one spot. So that's a big user voice, and not having to, like, if you ping me, and we're not federated, but we're on a different tenant, like I have to switch between tenants to see that. There's not a good messaging center to get all my messages for Teams and bring that in to tie it together. So
Yep.
um, if they can get that piece working, that'll be huge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. It's the pace of or the rate of change is insane. But it is interesting to see from week to week what has come out and what it's focused on, right?
Yeah.
Last week we talked about Zoom's 90 days of security up enhancements. Right now, like Microsoft, because they were ahead on the security side, they've been spending that time on features. And I mean, I just a month and a half ago we were talking about going from 4x4 to 3, or going from four people in a video to 9 people in a video.
Two
Now
by
we're
two to three
talking
by three.
Yeah, that. Now we're talking about the 7x7. We're talking about together mode with dynamic capabilities and different backgrounds. Like it's really it's kind of crazy. Okay, I feel like we beat that one to a
Well, I think the
as
other
far
thing
as
that
we
we
can.
will appreciate if we're going to be talking video is the filters are coming out, right? So to be able to use the system to clean up the picture and make you look better and a little bit
Yep.
more focused and control the lights. So video filters are coming, which will be awesome, and I know a lot of people will appreciate.
So we can stop our spending 20 minutes prior to a recording arguing about your lighting and
Yes.
my backgrounds and the fan that you can't see because I've got the background. But yeah, it will be nice to no longer have to argue over that.
That will be cool. And then I think also, so I touched a little bit on mobile, right? So being able to use the Teams app, and it's got a pretty nice interface in it to allow you to switch between apps. I also was announced as they're bringing Cortana to that. So to be able to use Cortana to use your phone and some integration with that will be cool.
Yes.
While we're talking about those kind of features, I don't have a list of them, but Power Automate is getting more features added to it that interacts with Teams. So the ability to
Ooh, very good.
do some flows and pull data from Teams and populate that, which is going to be huge because one of the big, huge announcements that came out as far as my customers are concerned isn't so much Teams based, but it is, Teams is sitting on top of SharePoint and uses SharePoint as their file service. Microsoft announced last week or two that they were getting rid of I think we touched about this, but the SharePoint Designer 2010 workflows.
Right.
So you've got 4 months to get off those. And I've got a lot of clients that are
still on them
and still have a lot of them. So it'll be interesting to see.
Hasn't Microsoft always said that the workflows, the designer workflows were going to stop working in Office 365? Like, isn't that not news? Like, the date is news, but
the
just
date
the
is
idea.
news. What typically people used for their forms, so now there's Power Apps, right, where we create our forms in there, but it used to be InfoPath back in the day, and that's always been going away.
Right.
And the date for that has been, I believe, July of 2021, so another year from now. So my customer said, well, if Power Automate, or if SharePoint Designer workflows are going away, why doesn't it coincide with that? That would give us another year. We understand we got to rebuild our forms anyways. We can just do the workflows at the same time. That's a full year we can mobilize. Microsoft came out and said November 1st, and then a lot of people are coughing up their skulls going, how do we do that?
That is very fast. That's fair. Okay.
So it'll be interesting to see if they can push those back on a client by client basis. Well, most companies though it's not going to affect. There's very few companies still running SharePoint 2010, but the ones that have a number of them.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so go ahead.
And Power Automate, while they're doing it, we'll be able to give them the ability to tap into some of the Teams features. Well, I was going to bring that full circle.
No, I'm glad you did, because I forgot that I wanted to say when you brought up Power Automate and being able to interact with Teams. So we actually have an Automate flow at our office. Our client services team has uses the document set library for all of our statements of work and all of those related documents. And when you create a new document set library, one of the things you do is provide the link to the Teams thread, because we do all of our customer conversations in threaded discussions. So when you do that, they actually use Power Automate to insert a link into the thread in Teams, the discussion thread, a link to the new document set library in SharePoint. That's really cool. Like when that first came out, that was big because we didn't have a way to connect that previously.
Yeah, no, that is.
So there's some really cool stuff you can do, and maybe one episode in the near future. You're big in the Power Automate community. Maybe one episode in the near future we can do a Power Automate use cases for Teams.
Yeah, I'm sure we can get some people. I think that I've seen we've seen some provisioning apps, some bots and stuff like that too. So that take information from the user and then run a Power Automate and workflow to get things done and move things around. So yeah, we could do that.
I think one of my first Power Automate examples that was given to me was Melissa Hubbard. She was out talking a lot about Power Automate and or Flow at the time, and she was talking about a button on her phone or an app that she installed as a button on her home screen that when she pushed it would send out notifications to her management that she was going to taking a sick day. Right. And I think it changed her out of office message or something like that. Like it did a whole bunch of things. And that's exactly the point, right? Being able to automate a lot of these manual tasks that we have to do. Even automating just the fact that you're going to be sick and not having to spend half an hour setting up all the out of office things. When you're sick, you're sick. You don't want to deal with that. So push the button. So that would be cool. That would be a fun episode. Okay.
That would be decent. It would be awesome if you could reach out to her. We'll see.
I will reach out to her and find out
if
that
you're gonna
that
be
wasn't
name
the person
dropping.
who said it, right? All right. The other thing on our list, and we've talked about this before, was the Tasks app, right? That is actually coming. So the Tasks app is joining the tasks in Planner with your Outlook tasks, the Microsoft To Do and your Outlook tasks. So they're all three pieces. So it's going to bring all that together within Teams, which I'm pretty excited about.
That would be cool because I know you like to keep track of your stuff. You do.
I mean, I'm terrible at it. Don't get me wrong, but and part of it is I'm like, well, I've got this stuff in Planner, and I've got a history of using the To Do app, and then I have a history of putting tasks in Outlook because it's so easy. But then I don't remember where I did what, and the next thing you know,
yeah, I've had that problem. Forget which app, which is where. Hey, so I don't know how long we are in time, but just a couple things. One thing that I did see that in coming out in the announcements, and what I've heard is even in some of the commercials and in the news and stuff that there are more and more devices that are tailored toward Teams, so headsets and other things like that. So making sure that technology works with Teams will be key. And I actually saw this on my local news. Talking about Teams rooms, we always have Teams. Teams rooms are rooms, dedicated conference rooms with Surface on it, like a giant Surface screen, touch screens, and the video bars and the video conferencing. But they were talking about how more and more companies are looking into developing those kind of rooms as they get back from COVID, because they're going to have a lot more workers working virtually, right? So instead of having each individual worker at their cube, I don't know how it works with social distancing, but having those 4 or 5 people are in the office, go into a room and being able to have those conference calls and still use all the team features, but more together. So you have more conference rooms. So the new design they're talking about offices would be more kind of conference room built, and as opposed to like now it's the open flooring plan,
right.
Kind of go and see it everywhere. More of the hoteling style they're talking about. So they see people going into the office less and less. So downgrading the office, but more of the virtual conference room type styles would be the thing in the future. So I think that will be cool, because I know in some organizations that I've been in, it's really hard to find a conference room. It's they have 1 or 2, right? But that's used. You got to look around. So I would think that would be a cool way to go and have 4 or 5 of those, or a lot more of those.
Yeah, I've worked in a company that did a lot of hoteling type spaces. You didn't have a desk. You went in, you logged in, you found an open desk via the application. You clicked on it, you reserved it for the day. They had technology that actually assigned the phone on that desk to your phone number. There's some interesting things when it comes to hoteling spaces that could be really cool. And if you mix into that, the conference room capabilities, and I think you're right. I think the new normal, as normal as it's going to be for knowledge spaces, for knowledge companies, is going to be that concept of, look, we have a desk for you. We're going to have less desks than we have employees because we know not everyone's going to come in. I could see that being a very interesting concept. If you've got if you find a link or to a video about that, about what you saw, share it with me. I'll post it.
Yeah, I'll have to dig for it. It was on CBS local news, but it was actually cool because they were talking about productivity and how everybody was so freaked out about, oh crap, productivity is going to go out the window. But the people they were talking to said productivity's been up a couple points across there, because people aren't, they're not congregating around the water cooler. They're either working earlier or working later. They're still, that's still, we got kids and need to take care of those, but they're figuring out how to manage that and actually get work done with less distractions, or again, using other time that they might not normally use, like commuting time and that kind of stuff. So
right. Yeah, that's really interesting.
So I will dig for information on that, because that was like I said, it was like the local news. It wasn't CNN, or it wasn't one of the big channels like the Washington Post or something like that. It was I don't know if they're the big channel either. So I was just stretching.
I was going to let you
Fox
go when
Business,
you said the Washington Post was
CNBC.
a
I don't
big
know. I
channel.
just want to say just CNN. I watch more than I watch everything. So, but yeah, it was local news.
Take a breath, Craig.
But being in Chicago, we get a lot of. They do look at the local news does look at a lot about what's going on in office industry and stuff like that. So that's cool.
No, that makes sense. No, that's really cool. I would totally. I'm curious about that article, so let's make sure we try and find.
Cool.
All right. So what did we talk about today? We talked about the different views that have come out or are rolling out right now for meetings. So if you don't have it yet, give it a week or two. We talked about Cortana in the mobile app, which doesn't surprise me, considering Amazon has its Echo app in every single app that it has. It's in the shopping app and all that. I'm not surprised Microsoft would do the same with theirs. We talked about the Tasks app. We talked a little about Power Automate. That was unusual for us. What else? Anything else that we want to cover today on our This Week in Teams?
No, I think that's good for an episode today. What's coming up for you? Anything new and exciting in the future?
I have no concept.
You're not talking. You're not doing anything. You're not.
My next presentation was a sponsored presentation. It was actually going to be really funny. It was a really weird day. They were going to do 10-minute presentations for all the sponsors. And my records officer and I were trying to figure out what to do. So we actually wrote a Dr. Seuss-like presentation for 10 minutes of rhyming about modernizing records. Sweet. And then it got canceled.
I was going to say, before or after you bought the hat?
No. I have no comment on that. But no, I have no presentations lined up. It's actually very relaxing. I went from having 2 or 3 a month to nothing, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
All right, man. Well, listen, Craig, it's always a pleasure.
Nice
for those of you who made it this 20 or 25 minutes, I'm sorry. This was a terrible episode.
I thought it was fun, but that's just me. Please subscribe if you made it this far, though. So
there we go. Yes,
subscribe to our video. We need to throw that up front because we're not good at that.
That's a good point. Yes, if you've made it this far, like and subscribe so we know that you did.
And give us suggestions for future episodes.
I'm up for that. I'm totally up for that.
That would be helpful.
The first suggestion is going to be you guys need to stop, I'm sure. Yeah. But like the second or third might be valuable.
There you go. Thanks a lot, Jay. Have a nice night. I'm going camping this weekend, so I'll be unplugged. Cool. And if we survive, I'll be back next week.
And if not, I'll find a new host. Don't worry.
I'm sure you've got several lined up.
I'll take 1 week off to mourn you, Craig.
All right, that'd be great.
This is getting awkward. Craig, have a good weekend. Enjoy your camping. We'll talk soon.
Thanks. Bye. There was the